We talk about resilience all the time, grit, determination. But what if you could actually see it? Today, we're going to tell a really powerful human story, not just with words, but with cold, hard data, tracking the incredible comeback of a senior amateur cyclist.
So I want you to keep this question in your head as we go. What does resilience really look like when you strip away all the emotion and just look at the performance metrics? The answer, as you're about to see, is pretty amazing.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're talking about a cyclist named Sylvina Sace, and his journey is, well, it's not what you'd expect. This isn't the story of some pro athlete who's been training since they were a kid. Not even close.
That's right. He started cycling in 2015, at 46 years old, after he retired. I mean, think about that. That's what makes his story so relatable, and honestly, it makes his achievements even more incredible. He just found a new passion and went all in.
And man, what a journey it's been. This timeline just lays out the unbelievable highs and lows. He starts from zero, has a huge accident, builds himself back up to an even higher peak, then suffers another absolutely devastating crash, and then, somehow, starts racing again. It's that classic comeback story, but this time we've got the receipts and the data.
So to really understand how deep his comeback was, we first have to see just how strong he got. Let's take a look at the data from his peak, right before everything changed.
Check out these numbers from a performance test back in April 2023. This is his engine firing on all cylinders. To put this in perspective, holding 256 watts for 20 minutes is a massive, massive achievement for any amateur athlete, let alone someone who started in their late 40s. This was his benchmark. This was peak fitness.
Another key number is VO2 max. Just think of it as how efficient your body's engine is at using oxygen. After an earlier accident, he'd already reached a crazy high peak of 68 back in 2018, and by April 2023, he was still crushing it with a score of 52.5. Make no mistake, these are the numbers of a seriously dedicated athlete. But, as we all know, progress is never just a straight line up. Now we get to the moment where the data paints a picture of something, well, something truly catastrophic.
So let's set the scene. It's late 2023. All the graphs are pointing up. Years of dedication, thousands of hours on the bike, it's all paying off. He is strong, he is fit, he's at the top of his game.
Just 1 month before the crash, his 20-minute power was a super solid 230 watts. He was in prime condition, absolutely flying.
And then, disaster. A third major accident. Another broken hip, an injury that could easily and understandably end anyone's athletic life for good. And the numbers? Well, they just fall off a cliff.
Just look at this. Only 2 months later, his 20-minute power plummeted from 230 watts all the way down to 138. That is a staggering 40% drop. I mean, that single number right there makes the physical cost of his injury brutally, brutally clear. And here's why. You can't maintain fitness if you can't train, right? He went from over 3,600 minutes of cycling in November to barely 400 minutes in December and January. Combined, his engine was forced to a near-complete stop.
So how do you rebuild from that? I mean, where do you even begin? The answer isn't just about being tough. It's about being smart. It's a meticulous, scientific, and data-driven process.
The comeback is built on this whole idea of training zones. And this isn't about just going out and riding hard all the time. Nope, it's about targeted work. Each zone is a specific power range, and each one is designed to rebuild a different part of your physical engine, from basic endurance all the way up to top-end speed.
This is how it starts. You can see from his plan, you don't just jump back into high intensity. You have to start here, at the bottom, rebuilding the foundation with low-intensity work, stuff in the recovery and base zones. It's slow, steady work, all designed for healing and just restoring that core endurance.
And this really lays out the whole strategy. It's just a logical progression. First, you spend weeks building that base. Then, you start to gradually layer in some intensity with tempo and threshold work. Only after all that can you even think about sharpening the top end with high-intensity stuff. And woven through it all is the most important step of all. Recover, adapt, and then do it all over again. Okay, a plan is one thing, but executing it, that's everything. So now let's look at the data that proves the incredible resilience of the human body and spirit when you guide it with discipline and science. This is just astounding. Remember that low point of 138 watts back in February?
Well, just 5 months later, by July, he was back to 230 watts. He climbed all the way back to his pre-crash power. That is what resilience looks like in the data.
But the data also shows us the true challenge of a comeback like this. When you compare his absolute peak in 2023 to his rebuilt form in late 2024, yeah, it's a heroic recovery, but he's not quite back to his all-time best. He's carrying a little more weight. His power and VO2 max are still just shy of that peak. It's a powerful reminder that that final few percent, it's always the hardest part to get back.
But let's bring this all back from the numbers to the real world, because this is the ultimate proof. All that data, all that training, it led to this. Just over a year after a life-shattering injury, he was back, pinning on a race number and competing on a crazy steep mountain. So when we look back at all these charts, we don't just see numbers, we see a story. And it's not a story about avoiding failure. It's a story about facing devastating falls and making a relentless, disciplined, and scientific climb back up every single time.
We've just watched one person's incredible journey, written in the language of watts and heartbeats. And it leaves us with one final thought. In fitness, in work, in life, we are all generating our own data every day. What story is your data telling about your own resilience?